Hi everyone, this is Fomafung, your Agile Evangelist, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be talking about how to properly handle spilled over stories at the end of the sprint. So for some reasons, this issue or this question has been popping up a lot recently, and then as usual, I decided to come on here and share my thought with you all so we all can continue to learn and grow. So, how do you properly handle spilled over stories? What I mean by spilled over stories is most of the time or sometimes when the team set a sprint goal and then at the end of the sprint, they may not be able to meet that goal for maybe whatever different reasons. And then now that you're moving into a new sprint, how do you properly handle spilled over stories? So by the end of this video, you will just have an insight on how I have done this in the past and some other ways that other people usually address it and what is the best practice on how to handle spilled over stories. Now, as usual, if this is your first time here, you are very welcome. Thank you for joining. And just so you remain in sync on what we share here on weekly basis, please go ahead, turn on that subscription button and the notification bell so that you remain in sync with what we do here. And if you are a returning subscriber, a returning viewer, I appreciate you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your constant love. Thank you for your encouragement. That means so much. Now, just a quick notice. If you are interested in our one-on-one mentoring and coaching services, please reach out to us directly. Check right up above. You will see our direct contact information. Reach out to us right away. Go to our website and you can contact us directly from there and we can take it from there. That is, if you are struggling with doing your job as a Scrum Master, or you are looking into breaking into the job market and you're struggling because you agree with me that it's not easy, for real. It's not easy to break into this Agile Scrum job market. And also, if you've been contemplating on pursuing this career path and then you're just not sure how to go about it, please reach out to us. I'm very sure that we may be able to help you. Contact us for one-on-one mentoring and coaching services in class setting so that we can, help you successfully go through this journey. Thank you so much. Now, let's dive deep into our topic of today. So, how do you properly handle spilled over stories? Okay, let's paint this picture. Let's assume that you've come to the end of your sprint and then for some reasons, whatever the reason may be, your team was not able to, close all of the stories that were committed into that sprint. So how would you handle that situation? So what I've seen a lot of teams doing, especially whenever I just join a new team, what I would typically observe them doing is when the sprint comes to an end, all the stories that were not completed, they will just carry these stories, move these stories forward to the next sprint. That's what they typically do. But I don't think that's a good practice. And the reason why I don't think that's a good practice is because based on my observation, whenever stories are being carried directly from the current sprint bucket into the next sprint, it immediately sees that opportunity from the team to have conversation on these spilled over stories to reaffirm that these stories still meet the definition of ready before it can be committed to a new sprint. And then what I've always observed is that most of the time, whenever they just keep moving these stories from one sprint bucket to the other, these spilled over stories, the tendency is so high that these stories will hardly ever be completed efficiently and effectively. So there is a high probability that they will keep carrying over these stories like that. Again, because most of the time, it always turns out that the same reason why the stories were not even completed in the first place are being carried forward. They have not had a proper opportunity to have a conversation. Like, I'm talking about the 3 C's here. representing the 3C or reflecting the 3Cs, that is card, conversation, and confirmation, before moving these stories into the next sprint. So that is always a problem. It just continuously causes problems for the team, but for some reason they think it's easier, or they just want to, sometimes teams just feel taking shortcut, kind of lessen their work, which is hardly ever the case. Rather, proper planning always assure a great sprint end. When you take your time, properly plan your sprint, make sure that you're reflecting the 3Cs, going through all the user stories, making sure that you're tasking out these user stories and putting in their estimates, and everyone clearly understand what it takes. The estimation are great, there is a high chance that the team will complete these stories at the end of the sprint. But if you move these stories from one sprint bucket, you were not able to close those stories, and then you're still moving these stories to the next sprint bucket without even properly having this conversation on, ensuring that the stories still meet the definition of ready, and the priorities are still the same, or there are still high priorities, it means that you just keep repeating the same mistake. So now, how do you properly handle these stories? You will even realize that, or you will agree with me, like some of the professionals on the ground, you agree with me that some of the tools, for example, Jira automatically assumes that when we have open stories that were not concluded at the end of the sprint, when you go and try to close, click the close sprints button or complete sprint button, Jira automatically directs you to move those stories into the product backlog, as opposed to moving them to wherever you may be thinking of moving them, because that should be the best practice. Because moving these stories back into the product backlog already, it gives opportunity for the PO to reprioritize the stories, because again, we are in the agile environment. Things change. Customers may want something else after 2 weeks, especially if their ask wasn't met. Within that 2 weeks, a lot of things must have happened. And then there is also a high probability that, their priorities may have shifted. And then now they want something else, or that may be on the lower end of the priority list. So moving these stories back into the product backlog, it gives an opportunity for the product owner to reprioritize the work, just make sure the backlog is deep, that meets the deep criteria. And then in addition to that, the team will have the opportunity to have conversation around these stories to ensure that the stories still meet the definition of ready. And then there are times when they will also catch opportunities to re-estimate the stories, because given what they have learned so far in that sprint that just ended, they may have noticed that their estimates were not as good as they thought. So that would be an opportunity for them to re-estimate these stories, add more details, ask for more clarification. Maybe they didn't understand those stories properly. That's an opportunity for them to really have that conversation. Right now, I'm talking about the 3Cs. At this point, the most important aspect is these 3Cs that I keep mentioning. Ensuring that these stories, so the story is the first C, and then the second C is the conversation. These stories are going through the proper conversation that has to take place, so that these team members or developers are properly understanding everything they need to understand in order to execute the stories up to completion, and ensuring that the completed stories are correct. The best practice is, instead of moving the stories back into the sprint backlog or moving them forward to the next sprint, bring them back in the product backlog. It may take some couple of minutes, or some maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes for you to still discuss the stories and then confirm that they meet the definition of ready before these stories are pulled into the next sprint. But it is worth doing. Trust me, it is worth doing, because just spending that time to do that, when you finally start your sprint and you're going, you'll be glad you did. That has always been the experience. Team members, most of the time, they really, for some reason, I realize that they always tend to resist a lot from moving these stories to the product backlog. They always just want to move it to the next sprint. I have always struggled with helping teams understand or see the value or the benefit of moving these stories back into the product backlog. But at the end of it all, when I finally succeed in helping them get to the same page on us setting an agreement as, okay, every carried over story should be moved back into the product backlog, they always find the value in doing that, because they'll see that priorities may have shifted, and then these stories will have an opportunity to be reprioritized. And then they will also have an opportunity to have this conversation, which is the most important, like I mentioned already. And then they would also have the opportunity to have the confirmation that, yeah, the story still meet the definition of ready. Now the story can be moved into the upcoming sprint bucket. So yeah, that to me, I think that's the best practice. Again, like I mentioned, the tools that you use like Jira will automatically assume that you have to move these stories into a product backlog. But now you can go now and go choose something else to move it into a sprint backlog or whatever you want to do. Yeah, so but now keep that in mind. If that is something you are not currently doing as a Scrum Master, please coach your team, orientate your team towards adopting this practice. It's all about experimenting. I'm not saying that it is the best way whatsoever. That is my experience, and it has always worked for me and my teams. So just try that and come back here and share with us what the outcome was. I will also appreciate if you have other thoughts on how you have handled spilled over stories in the past, and you address it from there. However, yes, I also want you to understand that, yes, it is always great to have an approach on how you want to, manage maybe goals that were not met. But I think the best way to even go about this is to try to first find out why they keep carrying over stories. Why are they not able to complete the stories that they commit to? Why are they not able to meet their sprint goal? So instead of trying to trim the branches, it is better to attack the root. Go to the root cause and resolve that root cause, so that you will not even have any reason to want to worry about how you should handle spilled over stories, because there will be no spilled over stories to worry about at the end of the day. So maybe, I'm not sure yet, our next video or in the future, we will discuss on what the steps you should take if you realize that your team constantly carry over stories, what you should do in order to help them be able to complete their committed stories every sprint or most sprints. So that is something we will talk about another time. So thank you all so much. I always appreciate your thoughts, your comments. If you have other ideas on how to handle this, like I mentioned, please go to the comment section and leverage it. If this is your first time here, please click that subscription button and that notification bell, so you will stay in sync with what we do here on a weekly basis. This is an amazing platform. This is a family. To me, it's a family. So the goal is to help everyone that come across here succeed or learn anything in the Agile space. Also, very important, if you are struggling, with doing your job as a Scrum Master, if you are struggling with breaking into the Scrum Master job market, maybe you've been going for interviews and you never get any calls back, and also if you've been contemplating on wanting to know more about what this Agile and Scrum is all about, and you're not just sure on how to go about it, because you agree with me that there is just too much information out there, just too much, which at times you end up getting confused or not even knowing which one is which one. Call us. Contact us. Check right up there. You see our direct contact information. Get to us for one-on-one mentoring and coaching services. We are very, very friendly with our prices. So get to us. I am very certain you may just be next in line to be helped. Thank you all so much. And as we'll be wrapping up here, hope to talk to you next week. Bye.